Hello everyone. In today's video we are going to talk about history of Ubuntu. Well, Ubuntu is one of those Linux distribution that gets used by majority of the Linux users, and there are various flavors available in terms of Ubuntu. For example, if you want to go with Genome desktop environment, you can download Ubuntu. If you want to go with the KDE desktop environment, you can download Kubuntu. And let's say you want to use XFCE desktop environment, you can consider Ubuntu installing. All these are flavors of Ubuntu and they have same underlying structure. If we talk about the history of Linux, well, first of all, I would say that various different brands of Linux are generally known as Linux distribution, or in shortly, we call it as Linux distros as well. In terms of the history of Linux, Ubuntu was something of a newcomer. In a very short period of time since its availability, it has gathered a lot of appreciation and a lot of users across the globe. The word Ubuntu is an ancient Zulu and Xhosa, which means humanity to others. Ubuntu also means I'm what I'm because of who we all are. It was chosen because these sentiments precisely describe the spirit of the Ubuntu Linux distributions. As I have mentioned earlier, Ubuntu is one of the number one Linux distribution. The source code that have been used to make Ubuntu is originated from other, or you can say much older Linux distribution that is known as Debian. Debian is still a widely respected operating system, but it came under criticism for having infrequent updates and less than user-friendlier installation and maintenance system. So because of that, people started to shift and people started to look for its alternative. A South African internet mogul who made his fortune after selling his company for around $500 million decided that it was a time to look for a user-friendly Linux distribution that is more easier to install and have more frequent updates. He took the Debian distribution and he started to work on it and made it more human-friendly distribution and called it Ubuntu. And subsequently, he formed a company that was called as Canonical Limited, and he used that company to promote and provide the support for Ubuntu Linux distribution. In addition to that, he also formed and founded a foundation to guarantee the future of Ubuntu. The rest, as they say, is history. Since then, Ubuntu has gone from strength to strength, and Dell and other hardware vendors has now started to ship computers that comes pre-loaded with Ubuntu. Linux and Ubuntu usually tops the chart at distrowatch.com. Distrowatch basically is a website that tracks the popularity of a particular Linux distribution. So as I have mentioned earlier that Ubuntu is one of the most used Linux distribution, you will find the same information on DistroWatch as well. So if you are new to Linux or you are already using Linux and want to try different Linux distribution, it is unlikely that you will find a better option than Ubuntu. If we talk about the system requirements in terms of the Ubuntu, well, when Ubuntu was invented, with the time being, the hardware requirements kept on changing. For example, Ubuntu 12.10 required 768 megabytes of your system memory and only 5 gigabytes of your disk space for installation. But now, as we have just got Ubuntu 22.04 LTS version, for that it is recommended to have 4 gigabytes of RAM for smoother use, and you should have minimum of 20 gigabyte of your hard disk space, and only then you will have smoother experience using Ubuntu. But still, if you compare it with some other Linux distribution that are out there, it is nothing, as it offers a lot of flexibility, user friendliness, and you get a lot of support in terms of getting into any problem. At the end, I will talk about the package manager. Well, in Ubuntu, we have apt package manager by default, and it gets used to download and install different packages and to install different applications into your Ubuntu Linux distribution. And whatever the version or whatever the flavor you are using of Ubuntu, you can apply same solution onto the all distribution of your Ubuntu, and that makes it really lovable by the users. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please leave a like, subscribe and press the bell icon. I'll get back to you in the next video. Till then, take care.